Hey, what's up, guys? Now I'm back to the Stephen King reread. This is going to be part four. As I explained in my review of Sleeping Beauties, I got away from this reread for a little bit. I wanted to read the new book, so I did. Now I'm back to this. That book took me a while. So now I'm up to Night Shift, Stephen King's first short story collection. And personally, I think probably his best. I have to reread them all again to just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure it's my favorite. There's a lot of classic stories in this book, most of which were published before the release of this book in various magazines like Cavalier, Penthouse, things like that. But there were a few stories that were written specifically for this collection, and I'm going to start off with one of those. The first story in the collection called Jerusalem's Lot. You might recognize that name. It's the long version of Salem's Lot, which it is the same town that the book Salem's Lot is about. It takes place in 1850 in Cumberland County, Maine. The main character is a guy named Charles Boone. He moves into a place called Chapelwaite, a big house, uh, a family house. There's some family tragedies that occurred in that house. And we come to find out this is the Marston house from Salem's Lot. So spoilers. And he's writing most of the story is written in the form of letters and diary entries, things like that. It reminds me a lot of how Dracula by Bram Stoker was written, and I love that book. I really like this one too, this story. So he's near this town. At least lives near this town called Preacher's Corners. The house is near this town called Preacher's Corners, and the people of the villagers of Preacher's Corners fear him and his servant Calvin, I believe his name was. Yeah, who live in Chapelwaite. The villagers fear him. They fear the house. He doesn't understand why. They say it's cursed. All this stuff happens there. They say all these things are happening because of the house. Apparently there was a two-headed cow that was born. Things like that. 1850 kind of things. So, and they through these people they find out about the town Jerusalem's Lot, which is an abandoned town nearby, near Preacher's Corners. So, Charles, he decided to go visit this town. The first time he does bring a servant, and they explore the town. There's a church. The town's abandoned. There's a church that's all messed up. There's an upside down cross. There's stuff everywhere. They find a book called the De Vermis Mysterious. I think that's how I pronounce it, something like that, which translates into Mysteries of the Worm. Um, so something bad happened in this town. So, they return from there quickly. They're kind of spooked. And he starts hearing things he thinks are rats in the walls, all these weird noises. He writes to the diary entries, well, the letters in the story they're written to this guy called Bones. And he writes about how he hears these noises in the walls. He thinks they're rats. Come to find out they're not rats. And yeah, so he decides he wants to go back to. He finds out all this stuff about things that happen in the house. They go in the basement, him and his servant, him and Calvin, and there's like two bodies down there, two live. I mean, they're dead, but they're moving around. And they decide to go back to this town. Well, he decides to. Calvin doesn't really want to go, but he's not going to let him go alone. So they go, and I don't want to give the whole story away. I've given away a lot of it already, but yeah, it's bad. Basically, what this story is about is the Chapelwaite, which is the Marston house. Even before the events of Salem's Lot, it was an evil place, full of. It influences the people in the house, and we end the story with um, he's writing to Bones again, saying he's gonna basically take his own life because that's the only thing that can stop this. And it ends with like a distant relative of Charles Boone, like a future relative, like in the present day when the story was written in the 70s. Talking, I guess he read all the stuff and talking about how ridiculous it is. But then he says something like, I'm starting to hear rats in the walls. So this house is bad. And we know what happens in Salem's Lot. And it's just this whole area is just, you should just stay away from this area. It's really bad. I said before, Salem's Lot, I think, is the scariest book he's ever written. No story he's written creeps me out like that one. And this one's really creepy too. Not quite to that level, but it's really creepy. I really like the story, and I don't know if it would be good for everyone. The way it's written is kind of strange. The language is a little strange because it's 1850, but I've read a lot of stuff about that time period that was written in that time period, so I can handle it pretty easily. I can see where some people might not be into it, but you should check it out. So that was episode 1. I am doing an episode for every. Well, it's the reread episode 4, but it's episode 1 of the Night Shift collection. I am going to be doing an episode for every story in the collection. So that was Jerusalem's Lot, kind of a prequel to Salem's Lot. I like it a lot. It's very Lovecraftian. I'm a big fan of H.P. Lovecraft. That's everyone who likes horror should be. So, and as Stephen King is himself, and you can tell when you read this story. So, really good story. Check it out. I'll see you next time. I think the next story is Graveyard Shift. So, see you then.